Private D1. A private in the United States Army holds the lowest enlisted rank, designated E1. At this stage, the individual is not a soldier in the full sense, but a trainee raw, untested, and often unfamiliar with the harsh discipline of military life. They wear no insignia. Their identity is defined by one thing only: potential. Recruits at this level are immersed in basic combat training, where their bodies are pushed and minds reshaped. It's not just about learning to march or fire a weapon, it's about learning to obey without hesitation, to trust command, and to work in brutal synchronization with others. The military strips away individuality not to erase it, but to harden it into something precise, controlled, and deadly if necessary. Privates often come straight from civilian life, with diverse backgrounds and varying motivations. Some are idealists, others are survivors. But here, they are treated identically, held to the same standards, subject to the same rules. Their days are rigid: physical training before sunrise, weapons drills, field exercises, classroom instruction on military customs and protocols. Mistakes are punished swiftly. Improvement is demanded, not requested. Promotion out of the E1 rank isn't based on ambition alone. It comes with time, usually 6 months, provided the recruit remains in good standing. There are no shortcuts, no handouts, only the grind. A private's journey is not glamorous. They do the hardest work with the least recognition. They follow orders blindly, carry heavy loads, stand guard without question. But their role is foundational. Every officer, every general, every commander, they all began here, anonymous and unadorned, sweating under the same burden. Becoming a soldier starts here, at the bottom. This is where the Army begins to mold its warriors. Private Second Class, E2. Private Second Class, a step above the bottom, yet still in the shadow of command. It's the first formal promotion a soldier receives, typically automatic after 6 months of honorable service. But the change is more than just a stripe on the sleeve. It's the Army's quiet acknowledgement: you're beginning to belong. By now, the soldier has completed basic combat training. The blank slate has been etched. Orders are no longer strange, they're expected. The chaos of boot camp gives way to rhythm, to structure, to an emerging sense of identity. A private second class begins to grasp the Army's core expectation: discipline without delay. Responsibilities increase. They're now tasked with applying what they learned: weapons handling, field maintenance, operational procedures, chain of command respect. They still follow orders, but they execute with greater confidence, fewer errors, and growing initiative. They are no longer stumbling through drills, they're performing them. In the eyes of leadership, this rank represents a transition from survival to contribution. Soldiers here begin supporting new recruits, reinforcing standards, and becoming examples of basic soldiering. There is no room for ego, but there is now a faint pressure to lead, even if just by being dependable. Promotion to Private First Class comes next, usually within 6 more months. But nothing is guaranteed. Discipline lapses, physical fitness failures, or insubordination can stall a soldier indefinitely. Advancement requires consistency, showing up, staying sharp, doing the work especially when no one's watching. In many ways, the rank of Private Second Class is a quiet proving ground. It's where a soldier begins to stand a little taller, speak with more certainty, and sense their place in the machine. Not at the top, not even close. But no longer invisible. The Army watches closely here. Because what they see at E2 hints at what this soldier might become. Private First Class, E3. The insignia may be small, but the shift in responsibility is clear. A Private First Class stands as proof of steady performance. At this level, the Army begins to expect more than obedience, it begins to expect competence. Promotion to E3 typically arrives after 12 months of service, or sooner for soldiers with prior experience or outstanding performance. By now, the soldier is no longer learning the basics, they're executing them with precision. They understand field protocols, chain of command, unit cohesion, and the unspoken code that governs daily military life. A Private First Class is often the glue in a squad. Not yet a leader, but no longer a trainee. They're assigned more complex tasks, given greater autonomy, and trusted to complete missions without constant supervision. In the field, they assist newer soldiers. In barracks, they reinforce standards. Their conduct becomes part of the culture, shaping the unit from the inside. This rank is a test of personal initiative. It's not enough to do what you're told. You're now expected to anticipate needs, respond to challenges, and adapt on the fly. Soldiers at this level learn that hesitation can cost lives. Clarity, speed, and calm under pressure begin to matter more than brute strength. The Army also begins looking at character more closely here. Discipline, attitude, attention to detail, these aren't soft metrics. They influence how soon a soldier might be considered for specialist or corporal, and whether they're seen as someone worth investing in. Historically, this rank has been part of the Army since the 1800s. But its meaning remains unchanged. It marks the moment a soldier stops being watched like a recruit and starts being watched like a future leader. The jump from E2 to E3 is small on paper, but enormous in practice. It's the line between learning to be a soldier and becoming one. Specialist, I4. The specialist wears a unique badge, a shield, not a chevron. It's a subtle but powerful symbol. This soldier's value lies in expertise, not rank. Among the enlisted, E4 is a pivotal level. It's where soldiers begin to stand out not necessarily by leading, but by knowing. Specialists often arrive here after 2 years of service, but for those with a college degree or prior specialized training, it can come sooner. The Army rewards knowledge. And that's what a specialist represents: someone with enough time in uniform and enough mastery of their job to be trusted as a subject matter asset. They may not command troops, but they train them. They repair what breaks. They manage systems. They ensure that the missions running behind the scenes, logistics, intel, communications, mechanics, don't collapse. In a world focused on structure and chain of command, specialists provide something just as valuable: stability through skill. But there's a tension built into the role. Corporals, who share the same pay grade, are considered junior non-commissioned officers. Specialists are not. They don't carry the formal burden of leadership, but they are often asked to guide, instruct, and correct those below them. It's influence without authority, responsibility without rank. And the best ones handle it with quiet precision. Promotion from specialist doesn't just depend on time served. It requires initiative. A soldier must complete leadership training and often volunteer for additional duties. That's because moving up means stepping into leadership, not just technical excellence. This rank is sometimes seen as a fork in the road. Does the soldier stay the quiet expert, or do they begin the journey into command? Both are valuable, but only one wears stripes. In the end, the specialist is a keystone of the Army: dependable, skilled, and often underappreciated. They're the ones who keep the gears turning, even when the spotlight moves on. Corporal. The stripes return. The chevrons reappear on the sleeve. The corporal is still an E4 just like a specialist, but in the Army, that stripe carries weight. Because unlike the specialist, the corporal is a leader. This rank marks the soldier's first step into formal non-commissioned officer (NCO) territory. It's not just about doing your job anymore, it's about making sure others do theirs. Corporals are often given charge of small units, fire teams, or key assignments. Their role is part mentor, part enforcer, part translator, turning orders from above into execution on the ground. Promotion to corporal is not automatic. It's earned. A soldier must complete the basic leader course, demonstrate initiative, and be trusted with the lives and performance of others. Unit commanders don't give out this title casually. It means the Army sees something: a spark of leadership, a consistency under pressure, a voice that others naturally follow. Corporal is one of the Army's oldest ranks, dating back to 1775. But its function remains as essential today as it was during the Revolutionary War. They're the bridge between the enlisted and the sergeants. Still close enough to the privates to understand their struggles, but high enough to hold them accountable. Corporal duty isn't glamorous. It's a trial by fire. They're expected to uphold standards with limited power, lead without full authority, and often be the first blamed when something goes wrong. They're not yet seasoned NCOs, but they carry the first true taste of command and all the stress that comes with it. What makes the corporal rank unique is how quickly it exposes character. Some rise to the challenge and thrive in leadership. Others discover they were never built for it. The Army notices everything at this level, because this is where leaders are made or broken. Sergeant. With 3 chevrons on the sleeve and the weight of accountability on their shoulders, the sergeant steps fully into the realm of leadership. This is where authority becomes visible, where tone of voice carries weight, and where the Army starts holding you responsible not just for yourself but for the actions of others. A sergeant isn't just in charge. They're expected to shape the people under them. Lead squads. Enforce discipline. Train new soldiers and retrain those who've lost their edge. They must be teachers, tacticians, motivators, and when necessary, enforcers. The distance between a strong unit and a fractured one often begins with the sergeant. Promotion to E5 is a competitive process. It requires at least 3 years of service, successful completion of leadership development courses, high scores in physical training and marksmanship, and the approval of a commanding officer. By this point, the Army expects a soldier to be more than consistent. They must be dependable under pressure, articulate in chaos, and ethical when no one is watching. In many ways, sergeants are the first real backbone of military structure. Lieutenants may write the plan, but sergeants are the ones who make it happen. They lead the boots on the ground, the soldiers in the trucks, the teams clearing buildings or hauling gear up mountains. Their orders are followed without hesitation, not because of rank alone, but because of earned respect. But the pressure is relentless. When things go wrong, the sergeant is held accountable. Late soldiers, dirty weapons, weak morale, it all reflects upward. There's no room for excuses. Only improvement. Sergeants must constantly walk the line between firmness and fairness. Too soft and you lose control. Too harsh and you lose your team. Those who master this balance become legends in the field. Those who fail don't last long. This is where leadership gets real. This is where the mission starts to depend on you. Staff Sergeant. The Staff Sergeant is no longer just a squad leader. They are a systems manager, a mentor, a tactical overseer. Their influence stretches further, and their responsibilities grow heavier. At this rank, leadership is no longer one-directional. It must move up, down, and sideways seamlessly. Promotion to E6 requires consistent excellence. A staff sergeant usually has at least 7 years of experience, has completed multiple leadership courses, and has earned the trust of both officers and subordinates. They're expected to know their unit inside and out, the people, the gear, the gaps, and the rhythms of performance. Their name becomes synonymous with readiness. Where the sergeant leads a team, the staff sergeant coordinates multiple teams. They often manage entire sections, supervise daily operations, and ensure that equipment, logistics, and soldiers are all in sync. When a mission is delayed or a squad underperforms, eyes turn to the staff sergeant not just to fix the problem, but to anticipate it before it happens. There's a shift in perception at this level too. Staff sergeants aren't just enforcing standards, they're shaping them. They sit in briefings. They give feedback to lieutenants. They translate vague goals into real actions and real results. It's also the rank where mentorship becomes a quiet, essential duty. They notice when a younger sergeant is overwhelmed. They spot the private who's struggling but hasn't said a word. They step in without being asked, because they've seen it before and they know what happens when you wait too long to act. The job never truly ends. Staff sergeants don't clock out. They carry the burdens of every soldier under them and answer to every superior above. In the field, they're tacticians. In the barracks, they're disciplinarians. In moments of crisis, they are expected to remain composed even when everything else falls apart. This is not a rank for the faint of heart. It's for those who've learned to lead not just by command, but by character. Sergeant First Class. By the time a soldier earns the title of Sergeant First Class, they are no longer simply leading, they are shaping the Army itself. With 15 to 18 years of experience, this rank represents senior enlisted leadership. It's where decisions begin to carry long shadows, where your judgment doesn't just affect a squad, it ripples across entire platoons. At this level, you're the principal advisor to the platoon leader, often serving as the platoon sergeant. You manage multiple staff sergeants, mentor junior leaders, and act as the stabilizing force between the enlisted corps and commissioned officers. When a lieutenant is still green, the sergeant first class is the steady hand that keeps the mission from unraveling. They are the memory, the voice of reason, and the executor of hard truths. Promotion requires more than years of service. It takes proven leadership, successful completion of advanced military education, and a reputation for unwavering reliability. Your record is scrutinized. Your performance becomes a case study. The Army does not promote to E7 lightly. It elevates only those who can be trusted with complexity, risk, and human lives at scale. Sergeant First Class isn't just a position, it's a presence. Your soldiers watch how you handle stress, how you speak in briefings, how you walk into a room. Your example becomes the unspoken rulebook others follow. You're no longer in the trenches every day, but your reach is still felt there. The role is demanding. Paperwork grows. Meetings multiply. The chain of command grows heavier. And yet, the best Sergeant First Classes never forget where they started. They still walk the line during late-night watches. They still check boots, inspect weapons, and pull a struggling private aside. In many units, the Sergeant First Class is quietly called the father of the platoon. Not for softness but for responsibility. For being the one who shows up, stays late, and knows when to be stern, when to be silent, and when to say what needs to be said. This rank marks the beginning of legacy. And legacies are not built through words, they're built through every decision, every standard, every soldier left stronger than they were before. Master Sergeant. At the rank of Master Sergeant, leadership becomes quieter but deeper. No longer on the front lines of small unit drills, the Master Sergeant is the strategic backbone behind operations. They are the advisors, the organizers, the ones who keep the gears turning at the battalion level and above. This isn't a role that shouts. It's one that steers. While the First Sergeant, also in E8, is hands-on with troops, the Master Sergeant is often focused on the systems that support them. Logistics, operations, personnel readiness, and technical execution, these are the domains they command. They serve as the principal enlisted advisor in their field of expertise, ensuring that missions run not only smoothly, but intelligently. Promotion to Master Sergeant isn't just about time in service, though most have served at least 15 to 20 years. It requires excellence in prior leadership roles, high-level performance evaluations, and a demonstrated ability to lead without needing recognition. The Master Sergeant often works behind the scenes, but without them, nothing works at all. In this role, technical proficiency is essential. The Army expects E8s to be masters of their craft, whether that's infantry, communications, intelligence, aviation, or another specialty. At this level, mistakes cost more. Misjudgments affect hundreds. That's why selection is stringent and accountability is constant. The Master Sergeant is often the one senior leaders call when things begin to break down. Not to explain but to fix. They're trusted to see blind spots others miss, to connect what officers plan with what soldiers can actually do. They speak fewer words, but every word counts. And when they speak, even captains pause to listen. They are the institutional memory. The ones who've seen cycles come and go. Who can look at a young sergeant and say, "I've been there, here's what matters." Master Sergeants don't seek the spotlight, but they make sure the lights stay on. First Sergeant. The First Sergeant wears the same pay grade as the Master Sergeant, but the role is radically different. This isn't a desk job. It's not about spreadsheets or protocols. This is leadership in its rawest, most direct form. If the company is a family, the First Sergeant is the head of the household. Known informally as top, the First Sergeant is the senior enlisted leader of a company, battery, or troop, typically about 150 soldiers. They work hand in hand with the company commander, serving as both enforcer and mentor. Logistics, discipline, welfare, morale, physical readiness, legal matters, nothing happens in the company without passing through the First Sergeant's hands. This rank is earned, never given. Selection is extremely competitive. Only the most proven staff sergeants and sergeant first classes rise to this role. Many soldiers will go their entire career without wearing this diamond. But those who do are chosen because they represent the Army's core values, not just in words, but in daily action. A first sergeant knows every soldier in their unit, not just their names, but their families, their struggles, their potential. When a soldier loses focus, the first sergeant steps in. When morale dips, they lift it. When a commander makes a call that could break trust, the first sergeant is the one who mediates. They also shoulder some of the hardest burdens. Disciplinary actions, family emergencies, death notifications. These aren't just duties, they're personal moments where leadership must be human. And the best first sergeants never flinch. They carry the weight so their soldiers can keep moving forward. The schedule is relentless. They're the first to arrive, the last to leave. Soldiers may not always like their first sergeant, but they'll remember them. Because top is the one who demanded more when everyone else gave up. The one who held the line, even when no one else wanted to. This is leadership not built on title but on presence. And when a first sergeant walks in, the room adjusts. Sergeant Major. The title is sharp. The presence is sharper. A sergeant major doesn't speak much because by the time they do, everyone is already listening. At the E9 level, leadership shifts once again. This isn't about running drills or enforcing curfews. It's about advising the command, shaping policy, and quietly keeping the army from unraveling. Sergeant majors operate at the battalion level and above, offering senior enlisted guidance to commanders. They are technical experts, strategic thinkers, and guardians of the Army's ethos. When officers plan a mission, the sergeant major ensures it makes sense on the ground. When decisions affect morale or discipline, they offer the truth unvarnished, and sometimes uncomfortable. Unlike a command sergeant major, a sergeant major's scope is often more limited to specific staff functions: personnel, operations, logistics, or training depending on assignment. But their influence is no less potent. They manage the rhythm of an organization. They're the trusted conscience that senior officers lean on when things get complicated. Reaching E9 is not a milestone. It's a testament. It means the Army has seen years of consistent leadership, performance under pressure, and loyalty that doesn't crack. These are the soldiers who never took shortcuts. The ones who made the hard calls and then lived with them. Their calendar is filled with briefings, planning meetings, reports. But their real work happens in the quiet moments: a phone call to check on a struggling sergeant, a conversation with a lieutenant who's veering off course, a quiet correction in a hallway that prevents a crisis later. Sergeant majors don't demand respect. They radiate it. They know when to speak, when to step back, and when to remind everyone in the room that rank means nothing without integrity. They are the stewards of Army professionalism, the living memory of every standard, every tradition, and every lesson paid for in blood. Command Sergeant Major. The Command Sergeant Major wears the same rank as other E9s, but the distinction is unmistakable. This isn't just a senior enlisted advisor. This is the enlisted leader of an entire battalion, brigade, division, or corps. They are the highest-ranking enlisted soldier in their unit, and the direct voice of experience that commanders rely on at every level of operation. Appointed by the Department of the Army, the Command Sergeant Major represents the pinnacle of enlisted leadership. Their responsibilities are sweeping: enforcing discipline, guiding senior leaders, advising officers on enlisted matters, and safeguarding the professional development of every soldier under their flag. This isn't a desk-bound role. It's active, visible, and unrelenting. Command Sergeant Majors walk the motor pool. They sit in strategy meetings. They visit remote posts, observe training drills, and check on wounded soldiers in hospitals. Their presence is felt everywhere. And when they speak, whether it's in a whisper or a war cry, it carries the weight of an entire command behind it. Promotion to this role is fiercely competitive. It requires decades of excellence, a flawless service record, and the kind of leadership that inspires not just obedience, but loyalty. These leaders are often selected from a pool of elite E9s, chosen not just for their tactical mind, but for their moral clarity and unshakable presence. In many ways, the Command Sergeant Major is the soul of the unit. Officers may come and go with assignments, but the CSM remains the stabilizer, the one who knows the history, the challenges, the people. They protect traditions, enforce standards, and ensure the human side of soldiering is never forgotten in the fog of strategy. They are expected to be everywhere but never in the way. Always alert, but never panicked. always watching, always preparing the next generation of leaders behind them. When a command sergeant major enters a room, there's no need to announce it. The room adjusts. The mission sharpens. And the soldiers stand a little straighter not because they're told to, but because they want to. Sergeant Major of the Army. There is only one. In the entire United States Army, just one soldier wears this title, Sergeant Major of the Army. This is not just the highest enlisted rank, it is the single voice for every enlisted soldier across the Army's global footprint. Appointed directly by the Chief of Staff of the Army, this individual is the senior enlisted advisor at the top of the entire chain. Their role isn't to lead a company, a battalion, or even a corps, it's to lead culture. To be the advocate, the watchdog, and the standard-bearer for over 1 million enlisted troops. The Sergeant Major of the Army advises the Chief of Staff on matters of morale, training, discipline, quality of life, and the readiness of the force. But it goes deeper than that. They travel constantly visiting forward-deployed units, holding town halls, listening to concerns, and delivering truth both up and down the ladder. They represent the lowest-ranking private just as much as they counsel the most senior general. This rank is not awarded. It is entrusted. And only those with a long history of impeccable service, unmatched integrity, and the ability to inspire the entire enlisted force are even considered. The Army doesn't just look for a leader, it looks for the right kind of leader. The Sergeant Major of the Army doesn't command troops. But their influence shapes everything from uniform changes and policy shifts to deployment cycles and family benefits. Their office becomes a nerve center bridging strategy with reality, policy with practice, and ambition with consequence. They are often seen standing beside the Chief of Staff during addresses, inspecting units on foreign soil, or sitting with young soldiers in mess halls asking the most important question of all, "What do you need?" The insignia is unique. The authority is unmatched. But the mission is simple: serve the soldier. And in doing so, serve the entire Army. Warrant Officer 1. Warrant Officer 1 is where specialization begins to override hierarchy. This is not a traditional rank. It's a recognition that some skills are too critical, too technical, too exacting to be managed by standard command structure alone. The warrant officer doesn't just do the job, they are the job. W1S are experts. They fill roles where deep technical knowledge is more important than general command ability: aviation, cyber operations, maintenance, intelligence, engineering, and more. They're the Army's problem solvers, called in when no one else knows what to do or how to fix it. Unlike enlisted promotions, warrant officers are appointed. Enlisted soldiers apply for Warrant Officer Candidate School through a competitive process that includes evaluations, written recommendations from commanding officers, and approval by the Secretary of the Army. Selection isn't just about knowledge, it's about judgment, adaptability, and the ability to thrive in ambiguity. Once appointed, a Warrant Officer 1 wears a simple black bar with silver trim. But behind that unassuming insignia lies years of experience. These soldiers are expected to operate with a level of autonomy few others in their pay grade are ever granted. They advise commanders. They train peers. They often operate in one-person lanes of expertise, supporting entire units by doing what no one else can. W01S are not commissioned officers, but they hold authority that parallels it within their domain. They don't give orders to squads or platoons, but when they speak, even officers listen. Because what they bring is depth, precision, the kind of insight that only comes from total immersion in a single craft. And as the Army grows more complex with advanced tech, digital warfare, and evolving threats, the value of a warrant officer only increases. At W01, they begin this journey not as managers, but as masters in the making. This is where expertise becomes leadership. Chief Warrant Officer 2. The black bar turns silver. The title changes. And with it, the expectations grow. At the rank of Chief Warrant Officer 2, the Army no longer sees you as a specialist in training. It sees you as a full-fledged leader of your domain. CW2S are the backbone of the Warrant Officer Corps. They've proven their technical mastery and now step into a role that balances deep knowledge with tactical leadership. They're not just executing tasks, they're shaping how missions unfold. They train junior warrant officers, mentor enlisted troops, and act as trusted advisors to commanders who rely on their niche expertise. While still considered junior warrant officers, CW2s are often assigned to battalion-level operations. In the cockpit of an Army helicopter, at the helm of a cyber operations cell, deep inside an intelligence post, this is where you'll find them. Quiet, focused, effective. They don't need rank to command presence, they carry it in their competence. Promotion to CW2 typically comes after 2 years of outstanding performance as a W01. But rank alone doesn't open doors. It's reputation. CW2s build theirs one decision at a time by solving what others can't, fixing what others broke, and foreseeing problems no one else spotted. Officers and senior NCOs may guide strategy, but CW2s ensure that strategy works in the real world. They know the fine line between theory and function, and they live on that edge daily. They are both leaders and loners, assigned to tasks so specific that only a handful of people in the Army truly understand what they do. Yet, when a mission fails or succeeds, their fingerprints are usually somewhere on the outcome. At this level, trust is currency. And CW2s are the ones who earn it and never waste it. If you find this video insightful and informative, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and also watch out for the other part of this video soon.